This episode of Empty Betters is brought to you by DraftKings. Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score six. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 244 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes, and I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on, my friend?
What up, dude?
What's going on? And then I'm going to toss it off to my other co-host up in Wisconsin, who actually got to get on the ice at the Milwaukee Admirals game the other night, Mr. Mac Vogel.
What's up? Yes, indeed I did. You heard it. You heard it here. And what's interesting is I've found myself in a little bit of a minor league hockey loop, is what I'm calling it. I think it's kind of funny. I went to the Admirals game last week and they had a promotion where it was a weekday game. And if they win on a weekday, you get tickets to the next weekday game for free. And so that's why I went in the first place yesterday. And that was also a weekday game and they won. So guess who has tickets to the next weekday game as well? So I'm in a little bit of an Admirals loop. We're gonna see how long we can ride that one out. But yeah, it was funny. I went to Elwood's before the game as I usually do yesterday. I was just hanging out there and totally didn't realize this, but Elwood's was doing their like every year they do a like an Admirals kind of a party thing where you can pay like I think it was $45. You get ticket to the game, a free drink, like an Elwood's Admirals t-shirt, and then like also on there it said like a chance to be on the ice or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I would have done this if I didn't already have free tickets, but whatever. So I'm just hanging out at Elwood's and our boy Nathan just comes up to me and he's like, hey, totally forgot I was supposed to pick somebody to go on the ice. But now everyone left and started walking over to the game already. So do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. Me and my buddy had no idea what we're getting into. They chose us for the cherry toss. So yeah, I was catching balls in a bucket. He was tossing them up. We didn't miss a single one. I think there's probably like a dozen of them. He made it real easy for me, so I give my boy Gino all the credit. But it was a lot of fun. Ice is slippery, boys, when you're wearing tennis shoes.
Highlights to be seen soon on our social media pages. But yeah, looked like a blast. Mac always finds himself in these types of situations. I feel like somehow,
It's
some way,
true, yeah, I do.
an interesting life you live. I love it. Uh,
Love the little like life hack you found to just like manufacture free hockey tickets, like just
Yeah,
for going to games during the week.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm caught in a loop. I guess
Right.
I was saying this to one of my friends yesterday, and he said one of his friends did this exact thing last year, and he ended up going to like 10 games for free because they wouldn't stop winning on weekdays.
Stuck in the vortex, the
Yep,
minor league vortex.
I'm not mad about it.
No, I wouldn't be either.
Well, speaking of minor league, we're gonna hop right into the NHL news. And some people might be saying this franchise is throwing out some minor league names for their franchise next season. Unless you live under a rock, you know that Utah, the Utah Hockey Club, They are trying to establish what their team name is going to be in the 25-26 NHL season. And pretty cool thing they're doing. They're doing a fan survey. So the fans are really choosing the name for the team. Um, I know that it just came over before we started recording. A lot of fans wanted the name Outlaws in there. It wasn't in the original three, but there were so many submissions via like DMs or the survey or whatever that I guess Utah was like, hey, we kind of need to put this option in the survey. Nobody wants I can't remember what it was. Does anyone, what's the one that they dip?
It was like Wasatch, which I think is
What?
like the mountains, like a group of the mountains that are up there, I think.
Yeah, like what are we? Never mind. Um, so we are now down to three names for Utah. We are down to remaining the Utah Hockey Club, which I think would be the worst idea ever. The Utah Mammoth and the Utah Outlaws. Which one do you guys like the best?
So right off the bat, you can't do Utah Hockey Club, in my opinion, and here's why. It's just weird, like because we're gonna end up having 34 teams in the NHL at some point, and one of them isn't gonna have a mascot, and one of them's gonna be the hockey club, because no one's gonna
Yeah.
come after and be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be the Quebec Hockey Club." Like,
Right.
no one else
No.
is gonna do that after you. You're not gonna be a trendsetter, so I don't know.
That and also I just have a problem like on principle with non-original six or non-Canadian teams calling themselves a hockey club.
Yes.
You're not a hockey club. You're a hockey team. Nobody calls you that. It's a club implies exclusivity, such as original six or the six Canadian teams. So I think it's bullshit. I could write a 500 word essay on why each one of these names is a bad idea. I think Mammoth is just boring, and maybe the 500 words would just be boring, written over and over and over again. Outlaws, I mean, this is fucking so stupid. Like like no one in Utah. It's the most like vanilla, like boring, non-crime state that I can think of. Like what kind of outlaw are we talking about? Like I don't know. Like minor theft or something like that. Like
Or maybe
no,
we're thinking like Yosemite Sam, like Old West kind of outlaws.
well, that's what it should be, like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but I don't think anyone's doing that in Utah. Like everyone that's been to Utah that's told me what it's like says they feel like they're like being watched and that it's like the most like surveilled, like
Hmm.
odd odd vibes of all time, and that just does not feel like Outlaws to me at all. But I do like the name Utah Outlaw. It's
It's
got a
one of
nice
those
ring
ones
to
where
it.
like the more you say it, the more you warm up to it. I feel like
Yeah.
that one is kind of the front runner for me.
If
Let's get to the elephant in the room here. Your color scheme was geared towards Yeti, and we all
Oh
know
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah.
Everyone on this planet knows
that
that.
is an issue.
So
I
now it's like, do you rebrand if you go with one of these other ones?
If
Because
it's
I don't know.
Outlaws, you got to be like tan or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking
You got to
like
be like,
brown, like a
yeah.
Hershey Bears Western Michigan vibe,
It
but
could be
like,
cool. It could be
I think it
cool.
would go hard. Yeah.
Or like a Texas, like a like University of Texas,
yeah,
Like a burnt
that color
orange.
scheme, like the burnt orange and sandy color.
right.
Listen, if someone can explain to me the like geographical significance of why a Utah team should be called outlaw or what that has to do with that area, and if you can actually give me a good reason, I'm on board. I like that name. Until if it's just random because it like kind of rhymes, then that sucks. That's my opinion.
They're like generic create a team names that you find in
Oh,
NHL.
100%.
Like that's just how I feel about it. But I did just look up because I was curious how the Utah Jazz got their name. Does anyone actually know?
They
Quick
used to
trivia.
be in New Orleans
They
and then they
used to be in
moved.
New Orleans and then they moved. Yeah. So they're not even like a Utah branded team.
Yeah, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah, so I don't know what you would call him. I know Heat Daddy wrote a 500 word essay about what the name could be. I think he floated the term angels out there. I mean, I think that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know, the Devils versus the Angels in the Stanley Cup final, that'd be sick.
I feel like it's so hard for a team not from LA to call themselves the Angels.
That's fair. Um, Yeah, I mean, because of the city name, obviously, maybe not
Right.
the people, but yeah. But yeah, well, we should get the results of that sometime soon, I would think. I don't know if there's an exact time frame. I know the voting is done in the arena. They have like little iPad stations so the fans can go and vote. So
I think they're voting on logos too.
yeah, I heard there's two potential logos for them to vote on. So I don't know. It just feels like clip art. I feel like we're in like clip art marketing right now.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Sucks that Yeti's couldn't work out. And for those who don't know, it's because Yeti, the cup brand or mug brand or
Cooler.
thermal polar whatever, I think there was like copyright infringement or lawsuits that would happen. So
I
They
can't
couldn't
believe
get
they
the
wouldn't.
trademark.
I can't
yeah,
believe Yeti Cooler wouldn't want to be like that. Seems like nothing but more profit for them. Like, why wouldn't
They could
you?
slap like skate blades on the bottom of a $600 cooler, call it the beer league cooler, charge 4 grand a pop for it, and just like
And
print
sell out
themselves
immediately. They could
into
also
private
just
islands.
literally immediately get Yeti Arena as like the official branding for it. I mean, I guess maybe not because it's already Utah Jazz Place or whatever it's already called, but I don't know. It seems like they could have done a bunch of merch and made bank off that. I don't know why they saw that as like a bad thing, but
I could not tell you. But we are going to move on to the Four Nations tournament. That's going to be coming to us pretty hot here in the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned for some of our content coming out for that. But they just announced the captains for each country. So we'll roll through these. USA, Austin Matthews is the captain, and then the two assistants, Matthew Kachuk and Charlie McAvoy. I'll read all through these and then we can go over them. For Finland, Alex Barkov, we've got as the captain, and then Aho, Rantanen, and Granlund as the assistants. For Canada, we've got Sidney Crosby as the captain, and then McDavid and Cale Makar as the assistants. And then for Sweden, we've got Victor Hedman as the captain, and then Eric Carlson, Matthias Ekholm, and Willie Nylander as our assistants. Your guys' general thoughts on these captains?
I like Matthews. I was a little bit surprised at McAvoy, but I also feel like in a way this doesn't really matter unless you're Canadian.
yeah, I agree with you, Nick. I saw somebody tweet today because I think some people were wondering about no McKinnon and no Hughes,
Right.
respectively. And I saw someone tweet that they were like, I'm pretty I'm pretty sure if Hughes or McKinnon were given a single other responsibility that they don't already have right now, they would just like collapse. So like probably best to give these guys a break and just let them go play hockey for a
It's
little
so
bit.
true.
Like
They've both
actually.
got a lot on their fucking plate at the moment.
Especially Quinn, with everything going on down there, which we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yep.
Any surprises? Like, I know we said McAvoy. I was a little surprised that Matthews got the C. I mean, I did think maybe Hughes would get it. I don't know. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, it's a little surprising that they're both not on that leadership group. I think that's the biggest one that jumps out to me. I mean, maybe Granlund too, just for Finland, but
Yeah, that is an interesting one. That one caught my eye as well. Couple injuries just to note, not pertaining to captains, but Miro Heiskanen ruled out with an injury for Finland, so that's a huge blow for them. And then for Sweden, Jacob Markstrom between the pipes ruled out for the tournament. He's been replaced with Samuel Ursan, and then William Karlsson is out week to week, so people are keeping an eye on who they might replace him with. I hope it's Ricard Raquel. I feel like he's earned that spot, but stay tuned.
a fun fact about Heiskanen, the game he got hurt in was the first game all season he played under 20 minutes. He played
Mm.
19 minutes and 50 seconds before getting hurt.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Thank you, Mark Stone. Great guy. Uh, we move our discussion over to Vancouver, where the drama just builds and builds and builds, and it feels like we've talked about this 1,000 times. But now the president of hockey ops or GM, I can't remember which role he's in, Jim Rutherford, who I know very well from his days with Pittsburgh, had some viral comments about the JT Miller and Elias Pettersson situation, quote, well, he was asked about the situation, and his answer was, quote, I feel like for a long time that there was a solution here because everybody has worked on it, including the parties involved. Uh, but it only gets resolved for a short period of time and then it resets again. And so it certainly appears like it's not a good solution that would keep this group together. So, not great. JT Miller was asked about Rutherford's comments, I believe, after practice the following day, and he just said, I have no comment. So, it's getting to a boiling point here. And now we're hearing rumors about Quinn Hughes wanting out if they go to rebuild. This is a team who played game 7 in round 2 last year against Edmonton, and now we might be looking at full rebuild.
You can't go full rebuild right now. Never go full rebuild. I mean, Washington Capitals, great example of that. But I don't think the city of Vancouver would ever forgive you for going full rebuild while you've had the best hockey player that city has ever seen.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'll move one of them, not the other, and they'll move him for not prospects or picks, but for somebody that can be on the team right now. I'm not too worried about all that. I do just think, I mean, forget this is coming to a boiling point. It's been at one. The pot's overflowing at this point, and I'm honestly just sick of hearing about it. Somebody fucking trade one
Yes,
of these guys already. Like it's
I'm with you.
it's fucking annoying at this point.
Yeah.
Also, like, come on. What the fuck? Did one of these guys like did one of these guys like sleep with the other guy's mom
I
or
was
But
something?
just
Like
gonna,
like, but
literally
Chicago
what
won
could be
three
so
Stanley Cups doing
serious?
that. So like,
Right. So like you guys are grown men. Figure it the fuck out. You're in the NHL. What could be so serious that you're like, "Oh, I just don't like playing with him and we don't get along very well." Like,
right.
holy shit, dude.
If I was like anyone else in that locker room, I would be so pissed off at both of those guys.
Same. And also, if I was any GM, I don't really want either of them. If you're that big of a
Well,
baby that you can't like, so what, like, what, who's to say you're not going to have a problem with some other random dude on the team that I just brought you onto, like,
that's a good point. Plus, you got the Canucks over a barrel. It's like I know you have to move this player or else you're just gonna
that's
implode.
true too. Yeah. It's just
So
a bad look for both of them. I think it's embarrassing.
I'm totally with you. Like the next thing I hear about this, I want it to be one of them is traded and we're done with it because it's just annoying at this point.
and Nick, I think it's good that you just touched on the fact that everybody knows these guys got to go. Like the Canucks are just losing leverage by the day because the closer you get to the deadline, the worse this is going to get. I mean, they're probably going to get shafted in terms of their return. So
I wouldn't be surprised if there's guys making offers. It's like, hey, like I'm not gonna give you a first round pick for this player, and you're just gonna have to live with that because I know you need to move them.
I think the patient game is definitely being applied here. Probably more so for Miller because I feel like out of the two of them, he's probably the first one to go, I would imagine. A little bit of an easier contract too.
I don't know if
You
you could
would,
do a Pedersen deal without having like multiple firsts in there or another player like
or
that's equal to
multiple
going back.
teams to try and retain salary. I mean, they would
Right.
look so stupid to trade him after they just signed him for that massive deal. Like that would just
Yeah.
I
that
mean,
would look so dumb.
it would be really bad if that's who Carolina's rumored to be going after. That would really suck.
Yeah, I there's going to be a lot of stuff going down, I think, before the Four Nations tournament, because as Max said on our last recording, like that kind of almost is the trade deadline in a way, because like you get back and it's like, okay, everybody's hitting reset, and then you got 2 weeks till the trade deadline. It's like, oh shit, like why not just do it before that? Guys can, move a little easier. It's not as rushed. Maybe practice with some teammates. I don't know.
Well, and I think you made the point a couple episodes ago, right? It's longer than the All-Star break. It's like a week and a half, 2 weeks, as opposed to
Yep.
just like the normal, like what, 5 days that they get.
Yeah, and especially if you're a player that's not participating in the Four Nations tournament, I mean that's a great time to just be able to kind of get used to a new city or, move your stuff or,
Go to Cancun.
I mean, I'm sure they'd rather be doing that, but if you're getting traded, I'd imagine, you'd want to use all the time you can have to get acquainted, or it's easier than getting traded the night before a new game and they're like, "Hey, get here, you're playing tomorrow" or something.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're gonna move on to some Pittsburgh Penguins chatter, and then we're gonna chat wild card races and weekend games. So for the Penguins, been a interesting road trip, and I'll keep this relatively brief, but they just finished a 7 game road trip with a 3-4 record. For those who watched the TNT game last night against Utah, if you stayed up late enough, which I didn't, they were asking Chris Letang about it in the post game, and it's like, yeah, like we're pretty happy to come out of this 3-4 instead of 2-5. I'm like, that just didn't come out or sound right in my brain at all, but regardless, they start the trip on a back-to-back against Buffalo and Washington, go 1-1. Then they go out west and play LA when the fires were starting and everything was going crazy. And they play arguably their best game of the year, beat the Kings 5-1. The Kings are one of the best home teams in the NHL as well. So it's just like, man, we might be back. And then they lose 3 straight games to three of the worst teams in the NHL. All three of these teams, I believe, are like bottom five: Anaheim, San Jose, Seattle. Malkin gets hurt in Seattle. Rust is like battling a lower body injury in the midst of that 3 game slate. And then they cap it off last night on Wednesday against Utah, where Crosby, thank God, saves the season potentially with an OT winner. So just a really crazy trip, a lot of adversity, a lot of miles traveled. The guys are coming back home. Big 4 games remaining before Four Nations. But it's going to be pretty damn tough to pull anything off with Malkin on IR.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm going to say something nice about the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, okay.
I was watching that game last night and just the end of it. And I have to admit, when Crosby scored the overtime goal and he was going crazy and the team was mobbing him, I actually was kind of excited for him. I was like, I just had a moment where I was like, that was kind of cool. Like that was dope. And we've talked about it on the show before, but it really made like makes made me realize how far like Caps and Penguins fans have come in this rivalry. Cause like there was a time where if I just saw a picture of that guy, I'd get pissed off. Like I'd be like, fuck that guy. He's so annoying.
It was
I
a
don't want to
blood
look
feud,
at
let's be
him.
real.
Yeah, but like it's to the point where like we have so much mutual respect, most of us,
Yes.
for Ovi and Crosby that like literally he got the puck and scored, and I was like, oh hell yeah, Sid, good for you, buddy. Like it's just shit like that, you know?
I'm with you. I feel I've come a long way in the last like I'd say like 4 years. And now that Ovi's, within really close striking distance of the record, like I want him to get it. I want to tell my kid one day, like, I watched this guy play from literally start to finish, and he scored over 894 goals. Like, that's cool. I don't necessarily root for him. And if he wins the cup this year, I'm probably going to want to jump off a cliff. But like, yeah, I agree with you. There's a
Well, and
respect.
I'm right there with you. I don't want the Penguins like
I
doing
was gonna
anything
say, I feel
crazy,
like
but
we're
like
kind of at this point because we haven't had a playoff series in like 5 or 6 years, but
I mean,
Yeah.
I was also secretly thinking, I was like, I would much rather play the Penguins than like the fucking Rangers or some shit like that. And
same.
like, how sick would it be for the brand, for the sport, for the pod if we
Yeah.
got one more Caps Penguins series? So, uh, yeah.
It would be electric, but gotta give one shout out to one guy, Cody Glass, getting thrown in a tough spot, second line center when Malkin's out. And this is a guy who I just you can't not help but root for him. Like, he kind of has had a rough kick at the can. Vegas's first ever draft pick, if I'm not mistaken, and then he gets sent to Nashville and kind of a misfit, never really fit in, and now he's getting all the playing time in the world. Former first round pick. I hope things pan out for him. But he's looked good in Malkin's absence so far. Don't know how feasible it is to keep that going, but 4 games left before Four Nations, like I mentioned. Nashville at home, Jersey at home, and then the Rangers on the road and the Flyers on the road. So that's it.
I think the Penguins are really interesting right now when you look at the standings because they are the second worst team in the Eastern Conference, but they are closer in points to a playoff spot than the team below them in the Eastern Conference for dead last.
Yeah, I think they're like 5 points out.
Yeah. And
They
then
have
they're
a
7 points ahead of the Sabres for last in the East.
Yeah, crazy. I am not anticipating this team makes the playoffs. I would not be shocked if we come back here on Monday night to record and I'm telling you how much I was confused by the Eric Carlson experiment or like something like that. I saw something come out today. I think it was from Jay Fresh, and it was talking about the Penguins this season and how the first 2 months were disastrous. And Eric Carlson missed training camp with a shoulder injury. Then in December, they were like the hottest team in the league. He tore it up, had like his most points in a single calendar month in like 5 years. And now it's just full blown like, what are we gonna get on a nightly basis? It's so up and down. I think the Penguins announcer last night said the Eric Carlson experience is in full swing because he gave up the second goal to Utah, like pretty point blank, and then he scores an unreal like Bedard type snipe from the side, and it's just you never know what you're gonna get. So, anyways, a couple big games coming up for the Pens before the break. And we just talked a little bit about the wild card race, but we're going to talk a little more. But before we do, just a reminder that this segment is brought to you by Prop Tracker, your one-stop shop for all outlier bets, shots, rebounds, receptions. We got the Super Bowl coming up. You're definitely going to want to use Prop Tracker to figure out some of those wild and sneaky first quarter props, last catch, second drive, rushing yards, whatever fits your fancy there. But go download Prop Tracker. It'll also update your phone when your props hit. So that's nice because you don't have to be looking at your DraftKings account the entire time. Go use the link in our bios to download, and you'll get your first month free on us. All right, boys. Let's chat playoff race. Let's start with the East. Nick, I can let you read through these teams here real quick.
Yeah, just some odds from our good friends over at DraftKings for the bubble teams that are looking for a playoff spot. Let's go ahead and do the East first. So that third spot in the Atlantic right now is held by the Senators. I think people were a little bit surprised about that, but they are still minus 180 to make the postseason. Those wild card spots in the East are starting to get interesting because Boston is plus 100 to make the postseason. Tampa, who's actually slightly below them, is still minus 525 to make the playoffs, which I think is a little crazy for a team that is in the postseason via a tie right now, but it is what it is. Columbus, they are the first one sitting on the outside looking in at a plus 340, and then Detroit at a plus 700, and Montreal at plus 475 right behind them. Boys, out of all of those, what is most intriguing to you in terms of playing?
Oh man, that's tough. I think Boston has had such a weird year. I don't know what to make of them. It's also not very juicy, so I'd probably stay away from that. I'd probably go either Columbus or Detroit, tell you the truth. I think Detroit is really juicy for the value, plus 700. They've been pretty darn good since the coaching change. Um, yeah, I don't see a real reason not to throw 10 or 20 bucks on that.
I'm big on Detroit. I mean, obviously, I would like for it to be Columbus, but I think Detroit would probably be the better bet. They did the coaching change. I feel like when that happens in the middle of a season, somehow that ends up propelling you into a playoff spot. They've looked good, obviously, since McClellan's taken over. So I'd probably take Detroit.
I think I'm going to lean a little bit more Columbus just because of the recipe they have. I mean, they have the really good mobile defensemen. I think their goaltending situation is a little bit more stable than Detroit. So I think maybe just for that alone, I lean a little bit towards the Jackets on that one. Let's go over to the West. The East has always been crazy. This is where things kind of drop off a little bit in terms of tightening up that wild card race, but uh, that third spot in the Pacific, I feel like, is the one that's kind of going to be up for grabs here. Right now, you've got LA there, and to make the postseason, the LA Kings are minus 1,800. I don't know about that, guys. I don't know who's writing this, but um, maybe that's in terms of the level of noise they're going to bring to that building with everything that's gone on recently. But yeah, I have no idea. Sitting in the wild card one spot, Colorado minus 1,200. Not really too surprised about that. Wild card two spot is pretty interesting. Vancouver sitting there at minus 210. It's a minus, but that's not a lot of confidence for a team like the Canucks, in my opinion.
especially with all the rumors. We don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
We don't know what that team's going to look like in two
Yeah,
weeks.
very true.
First one on the outside is going to be Calgary. So they're sort of the front runner right now to steal that Pacific third spot. They're at a plus 210. Utah at a plus 425, and then St. Louis kind of on the fringe at a plus 1200. Again, with the Blues, you just never really know. They could be the most likely team out of all the ones on the outside looking in to make the postseason, but yeah, I think they have some pretty big decisions to make at the deadline in whether they buy or sell.
Blues are streaky.
They're very
Yeah.
streaky.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd take the bait on any of those teams that are on the outside looking in on the West there. I honestly think it may end up pretty similar to where we're at right now. Maybe Calgary sneaks in, but it's not that juicy that I'd be jumping out of bed to play that line. I don't see Utah or St. Louis getting in just with their inconsistencies this year. Utah has had some serious inconsistencies in goal. That was another thing I noticed last night. They were going to start Vamelka, who's been playing pretty well. They
Yeah.
went with Ingram. He let in a really weird goal last night that
Not a
just,
good year for him.
yeah, it hasn't been. And so I think they're doing a little bit of soul searching. I don't see them getting in.
The thing I can't figure out with Vancouver is like minus 210, yeah, with current roster, but we obviously know there's going to be a little bit of change going on, I would imagine. It's crazy that they're going to do all this well in the midst of a playoff run, but
Exactly. I think that that little group of like LA, Vancouver, Calgary, it's three teams fighting over two spots. And I know we're still in, the very end of January right now, but if you look at those points and how those teams are kind of starting to separate them a little bit from everyone else that's beneath them, like Max said, the Utahs, the St. Louis, I just don't know if either of those teams is going to be able to stay with those three.
give me Calgary. Bring playoffs back to the Saddle Dome. Dustin Wolf has been a menace this season. Should get more Vezina recognition, but obviously we've got, Mitchkov, Celebrini, Hudson. They're going to steal all the headlines. But Dustin Wolf has been a beast. I would love to see him sneak in. Maybe he could pull off an upset. You get a hot goalie at the right time.
That's a great building in the playoffs too.
Oh, it's awesome. It's perfect. Um, let's look ahead at the weekend slate. This is premiering. What is this episode going up? Friday morning. So we'll take a look at maybe some of the Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday games. We'll look at this real time. We don't really have anything on our notes for this, but uh, Nick or Mac, are there any games when you're looking at the NHL schedule that are jumping out to you?
We talked about it a little bit last episode. I think for Mac and I, the big one is going to be the Caps Jets game this weekend. Just top two teams in theory in the NHL, or at least standings wise right now. So should be a good goalie battle too. I'm pumped for that one.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Best on best in the NHL right now from the East and the West. Bruins Rangers is kind of intriguing. I mean, they'll always get chippy with each other. Both those teams are kind of fighting for their lives a little bit in the standings right now, trying to prove their playoff team. Um, Islanders Lightning a little bit interesting too for the same reason. I mean, both those teams, I think, within those locker rooms believe they can be a playoff team this year, and I think most of the league is doubtful about at least one of those teams being a playoff team. So big prove it game. There's a lot of good ones. We've got Toronto and Edmonton.
Leafs Oilers.
That's gonna be a great Canadian battle. And I'll even be keeping an eye on Kings Hurricanes as well. That's two good teams that'll be in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, Leafs Oilers, like you said, Nick, Saturday at 7. Oilers will be home, so McDavid gets home ice against Matthews. One game I am looking at, I know Dustin Wolf's numbers, I was just pumping his tires. His numbers at home have been unreal this season. And Calgary gets Detroit at home on Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. I would imagine the value on Calgary will be pretty decent. I think might even be plus money. Maybe keep an eye on that one. The Senators have also been hot. Maybe that Saturday game against the Wild at home, I could see that. I need a prediction for Caps Jets. That's too big of a game for us to not get a prediction out of.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say we lose that game. That'll be our first game after the longest road trip of the year. It's been a successful road trip, but lot going on. I think the guys are probably itching to get home in a big way, and they're headed home after the Senators game tonight, I believe. I'm kind of expecting a little bit. I don't want to say hangover, but like I could see them getting a little like you get home from the trip tonight, you're like resting up a little bit tonight and Friday, and then all of a sudden you got to play like the best team in the league Saturday. I could see us being a little bit slow to start that game or something like that. I'll go with a 5-2 Jets win with like an empty netter.
I could see that. I could see them having the lead boots a little bit in the first period as soon as they get back. Whatever you do for that game, just get all over PLD props because he's going to do something for sure.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that. He's been playing great lately. One last game. I have no stats to back this up. I have these weird visions of the future where I wake up and I check the score and I just feel like I know what's going to happen. So I'm kind of seeing into my magic 8 ball right now. I'm down like 8 units on the year, so keep that in mind. Um, Sunday, Utah, St. Louis. Don't ask me why, but that feels like a big over game, like a 5-4, 6-3, weird barn burner type game.
I like it.
Very random, but yeah, that's what my brain's saying. So we'll see
I
how
could
that
see
ages.
that for that Devils Sabres game on Sunday as well. That's a 1 p.m. game. That's like one of those ones where you're starting to get like notifications on your phone. You're like, "Oh wait, there's a hockey game going on right now." And then you open it and it's like
All of a sudden, it's
first
four to
period
one in
like
the first
yeah,
period. I
exactly.
could see that. Yeah.
Like Tage Thompson has a hat trick or something
Right.
crazy. Yeah. Well, that concludes our weekend preview and some chatter about the current playoff picture. Second recording this week, so something a little different for y'all. Anything else you guys want to add before we get on out of here?
I think I'm good. Let's go Caps.
Go subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to
Yes, that.
follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter/X. Yeah, appreciate the love and support as always, and we'll talk to you in the next one.